Next came the remarks of the U.S. chairman who has taken over this year for the first time. She said wonderful sounding things, which included, quote, "We are here to protect the health of consumers and assure fair food trade. We are not here to engage in academic debate." She said that Codex is a global forum for the setting of real-life standards. She said it's the only forum that brings together everybody interested in food and the only standard-setting body that brings together scientists and industry. She said Codex is about healthy people. I would contest that. She said that the Codex evaluation in 2002, done by WHO and FAO, said that the members highly value the organization for the standards and the processes by which it produces them. Then she talked about the world facing a continuing food crisis. And she said that rice is 20% or more higher in some Asian markets than it was a year ago. And FAO noted that the double blow of the global recession and high food prices has pushed 100 million people into poverty. My comment, of course, is that if you're trying to kill them through destroying the access that they have to clean, healthy food, then that would be something very useful for you. She then went on to say Codex standards can ease trade through harmonization, although the impact is just the opposite. And so she said the poorest countries can enter world markets with the only commodity they have to trade, food. And then she, quite audaciously, compared herself to Mother Teresa and reminded the audience that when Mother Teresa was asked how could she carry out the enormous work that lay before her, she said, "Just do the thing that is in front of you." And then the chairperson said, "How can there be a greater goal or a higher good than this? Let us start with what is in front of us. Will you join me?" she asked, and said, "Thank you." Then the real proceedings began. The first issue was one in which insects, which are actively feeding, are allowed in apples. India said that was totally unacceptable and that it was the first time that Codex had accepted a standard in which filth, and insects are legally known as filth in food, was actually permitted. He said, the representative of India said, this will lead to the dumping of poor quality fruit in the developing world, and indeed it will. The voices raised against this were vigorous. Thailand, India, many countries said this is a bad idea. However, the Secretariat said, well, the presence of a feeding pest in food is not the same as a contamination pest. These pests do not pose a risk to human or plant health. Well, how would they know? If you eat feeding bugs, maybe they do pose a health threat. It was an appalling discussion, but wait, there's more to come. The reservations that countries expressed, the horror that they expressed, was palpable, and yet the chairperson said, well, we're going to adopt this, and she twisted arms and twisted words and twisted meaning until the proposal was adopted. Then, in another item, Argentina said that they would like to include chemicals that kill parasites in the introduction to a standard. And this was discussed for a while, and Colombia raised the point that in this standard, it was possible to use human waste as a fertilizer. The United States has been trying to push industrial waste, industrial sludge, and human waste as a fertilizer, and you could see the United States' hand in this. The Secretariat said, and the chairperson said, well, we're not really talking about human feces, we're just talking about human waste. And Colombia, can you live with that? Columbia said, "I'd like to leave the reservation with the implication that human waste includes human feces for fertilizer, and that experimentation on humans is not a good idea." Nonetheless, food health was served by the adoption of Codex, of a standard that says that human waste can be used in an experiment, a grand experiment for human food production. That's untreated waste, something that people all over the world know has huge health hazards. And then there was milk and milk products. A standard was advanced in which milk products under consideration only have to have a 40% dairy content. Many countries supported a 50% solid content, but that didn't go very far. Artificial sweeteners standard were approved, and the idea that artificial sweetener standards were being approved for food in general was contested by an observer organization. Before he was allowed to speak, the chairwoman said, "Sir, please be brief. You are standing in the way of lunch." The comment was made, and then the U.S., standing in the way of lunch, added that because yesterday was the celebration day of independence in the United States, that the U.S. had left red, white, and blue M&Ms at the desks of each of the delegates. Health food, I suppose. And I'm sure they were sweetened with aspartame or some other particularly horrible, dangerous artificial sweetener. The melamine standard was adopted. A rice arsenic standard was adopted, which is too high for weaning infants. Rice is a weaning food in most of the developing world. And then there was the great ractopamine debate. Ractopamine is a drug used solely for fattening animals. It has no veterinary purpose. The United States uses ractopamine in its animals. China finds it so poisonous that for years it has fought ractopamine. That does not interest this body. China is the largest pork producer in the world and the largest consumer of pork. Nonetheless, ractopamine was being pushed forward. The opposition, however, was so vigorous that it was once again put off for another year, while the industrializers of food have a chance to twist arms. And that's what happens here. They couldn't come up with a ractopamine standard, so the suggestion was, well, maybe we could come up with a ractopamine standard by 4 o'clock tomorrow. If not, then we'll have to put it off for another year. Why do we need ractopamine at all? Not for food, not for healthy people, not for healthy animals. It's like arsenic added to chicken feed. It makes the animals swell, and then we eat them with all of the toxins involved. Another day at Codex. I'll be back with more information tomorrow. You know, if the United States were not in Codex, this organization would have a chance of becoming a pro-health organization. With the United States here, with its contingent of interested parties which it serves, I don't think that can happen. I'd like you to watch the video that I made asking, should the United States get out of Codex? The link is right here. And then I'd like you to take the survey telling us what you think. When enough of us have cast their opinion votes, then we can go to Congress, we can go to the government. And not a penny of my money for Codex, as long as you're helping to kill the world.